Interpretation of my dream on what they call Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 2015. Ekankar would have you believe my experience was the inner form of my second Ek initiation that was repeated till I realized it. They would have you believe that the eagle was the talons of time, a manifestation of Kal. This is their name for Satan, and is defined as being Yahweh as well as Jot Naranjan, are the highest without fear or blemish. That blameless one, over time, or Kal Naranjan, is not a separate god of evil, but God is a noun and verb, as shown through one sort of meaning for Sugmad and Ek. Just as Hugh is seen as the song to God that bridges them in this dream, Yahweh encompasses both themes, except for the idea of Ek as the Holy Spirit, or Gabriel, or angels. An Ekist interpretation also shows that the dream is an understanding of some of their spiritual laws. Agawan, or the Wheel of 84, is seen in the scene representing an endless cycle of births and deaths. The snake, tiger, and weasel were as the three poisons of ignorance, anger, and greed. Also, they were representatives of past, future, and present. The black and white mice are day and night. The skull and snake are symbols of certain death. The tiger is seen elsewhere as a symbol of time catching up with you. The rest of the dream would be seen in Ekankar as being the Mahanta or Wayshower, the living Ek Master, appearing in bird form to give me an initiation and show the spiritual laws of spiritual unfoldment, economy, evolution, progression, and life. They would see the river as the river of death, as that crossed on the way to the peak of Mount Aknak and the valley of Girgente. What is the more truthful way to interpret all this? My interpretation lays in grouping the first scene into a form of experiencing the 13th numbered tarot trump as death, life, and the Wheel of 84. The first group can also be seen as having themes that can be related to mythology of the first group of the constellations Scorpio, are the scorpion, and Telescopium, are the telescope. Also known as Mastella, or the weasel, or Urania's mirror. The sneakiness of the weasel was seen in how it lured me to where I didn't know I couldn't go. The triangle was both as the first plane of material manifestation and as the attribute of Scorpio in a former age, which was cardinal water instead of cardinal air. The mirror refers to the concept of mysteries within mysteries. The Wheel of 84 represented the many ends and beginnings in life. That is the truth that underlies the endless cycle of births and deaths myth. I believe in a pre-existence and an afterlife for each of us, even though I deny the implications of reincarnation usually represented by these symbols. The tiger was as the fear of the future. The snake was as the ambiguity about the past. The giant skull was as the translation known as death. The turtle emerging was the translation of birth. I don't think anyone has had a series of lives. I guess it was another air guidance about that, about the subject. The second group of events can be seen as the 14th numbered trump, as life, economy, progression, spiritual unfoldment, and evolution. This series of events contains elements of myths of Sagittarius and its decans. Lyra, are the harp, Also a vulture or ibis, aquila are the eagle, and sagitta are the arrow. These decans are connected to the 3, 4, and 5 of discs. The planetary attributes in triplicity are Venus, Mercury, and Saturn. The planetary attributes of these decans are also seen as Mercury, Moon, and Saturn. The Venusian symbolism was seen in the ibis, and me as devotees. It was also seen through the visionary experience of the initiation of light and feeling. Its mercurial symbolism was seen in the washing, prayer, and meditation that we had to do as our work for escaping it. Now, I'm not saying that spirituality should be an escape. It's actually more of an indulgence into life. Its lunar symbolism of power, well, escapism is the word I'm looking for, yeah. Its lunar symbolism of power was seen in the control it seemed to hold over the terrain. The bags the coins were sorted into represented the 3 of discs as having a secondary air symbolism, the 4 of discs as having water symbolism, and 5 of discs as having a fire symbolism. Yellow, blue, red, yeah. The aspirations of mutable earth are the 12th of the year, represented by Scorpio, was seen in the Shem Hamafarash, Sigilia. The renunciation of the evils and prayers warding off the bad of the period and exorcism of its evil entities were represented by the Sigilia of the Goetia over Ase, Amy, Aureas, Nathula, Zagan, and Volok. In reverse order, these 6 coins were orange and purple, gold, silver, orange, and bluish purple, and orange. The periodic giving over of the bags was as spreading out the resources, yet still making them effective. The colors of the eagle's stone were as these attributes of the eagle constellation. The Saturnal symbolism of Sagitta as usefulness was seen in the functions it played in the dream. Its other Saturnal symbolism, or worry, was seen in the shadows and worry felt upon our last confrontation. Yahweh is God as a noun and verb, as opposed to Ek as God as a noun and Ek as God as a verb. While Sugmod, God as a noun, and Ek, God as a verb. You know, well, I mean, okay, there was value in saying it separately, but, you know, opposed to is probably not the right word. Contrasted with saying it in 2 different terms. Even if we consider Ek to be an angel, angels, spiritual, or the Holy Spirit, which is the Archangel Gabriel, the effect is the same, with the use of chanting Hu as the name of God to represent relations between the Ek and Sugmod, or the God we seek. Sugmod means God we seek. Ek means one. The Tetragrammaton, breaking the arrow, shows the Saturnal symbolism of Sagitta as enlightenment of those who have merged their concept of God into a pure monotheism rather than the denial of it, in those who question that and have taken on concepts of plurality of gods and goddesses, or plurality within God, the definition of polytheism. You know, that's what defines polytheism. Christians calling themselves monotheists. How silly. Like those referenced in Al-Quran, Surah 38, 5 through 6. Workbook activities. Workbook activity 2.11.1 is on page 250. I came to be studying the Ek Dream 1 Discourses, Lesson 11 by Harold Klemp, because I was looking for free religious literature and checked out a lot of material from the library in the year 2000 of the Common Era. I finally decided to go to Ekankar meetings and share upon what is good and true. I would bounce ideas off their teachings, and that led me to get the Discourse series. I did take a break for a while. Positive responses inside and outside of the group led me to continue. I don't believe anyone had a past life, so there was no greatest joy in it. There was no purpose or meaning behind lifetimes that didn't exist. Of course, the interpretation thereof, or the experience as if that's what it could have been, is a different matter, isn't it? The next workbook activity is upon the following page, telling people to imagine that they are in Hawaii. And telling them that what they just imagined may be past of a past life. Seems to be projecting concepts derived from the life of the body we are in into a previous existence. My dreams do give clues about my existence through the information conveyed. They sometimes make it easier for people to figure out their health or another truth. The next page has the following workbook activities. I have had insights about the past through dreams, but not any that would lead me to think that I had a life in another material body. No male or female has the sort of divine nature that is implied. We are gods and not part God or becoming a living God. I don't believe that we can interpret a dream as only on the physical plane because of a green color, nor a pink dream as astral, nor an orange dream as causal, nor blue in a dream as being on the mental plane, nor a purple dream as being etheric or the upper level of the mental plane, nor a yellow in a dream meaning it was of the soul plane. Some dreams do seem to affect the way we feel or think, though. Workbook activity 2.11.4 is on page 253 of ECK Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp. To a degree, all are probably ready to explore more of themselves. The call to stretch your inner universe by letting your imagination run wild has led many to find insanity the Eckankar, though. Yeah, the number of people who develop what seem like mental illnesses after joining Eckankar is an interesting side effect. The talk of alien encounters as astral or metaphysical experiences stands out. I would agree with Harold Klemp about these beings not being from outer space, whether by occult practices or otherwise. I would add that some, if not most, of these are psychedelic experiences. Most of the heaven experiences that Eckankar talks about are psychedelic, without anything distinctly otherworldly. You can tell by the references to the astral plane as emotional, the causal plane as a place of memories, the mental plane as intellectual, the etheric plane as the intuitive, as well as aspects of the soul plane and others. The next page has the following workbook activity. I already shared my thoughts around the 12th track of excerpts for the ECK Dream 1 Discourses. I will say that when one finds out a spiritual leader is diagnosed with schizophrenia, one doesn't want to take their advice on matters of personal realities. The idea of not being self-abrogated is a valid psychospiritual travel tip. As opposed to the previous exercise, it makes the aliens from other worlds bit sound real, as it asks you to put a star in a journey entry that may be of that sort. I discourage anyone who would pray to spiritual leaders from, praying to their spiritual leaders. Spiritual claims, right? In my country, the government, has the freedom to not be diagnosed according to believing something differently. And therefore, some insane leader who might be executed for treason or something like that is insane because of his choice of being Christian, or I can think of certain people who've tried to overthrow the government, literally, failed very miserably. Most people didn't even hear of them. And, some people who have visions, well, okay, maybe some entity told you that, but why didn't you say no? That shouldn't absolve you of anything, but and who are we to say that? Who are we to say that they didn't have that experience? But they should have at least said no. If your neighbor says kill, are you going to just go off and kill? No. The same thing should be for the entities that one encounters spiritually. You're responsible. You remain responsible for your choices of beliefs and actions. The following page has the next workbook activity. I haven't made any dream journal notes from the past few weeks, but recording them helps to organize and interpret my experiences. I didn't discover anything new through review of a recording in my journals lately. Workbook activity 2.11.7 is on page 256 of the ECK Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp. Unwanted conditions don't just go away with picking some creation and praying to it. Explanations don't always come. Life can become easier in some way, but imagining some Mahanta is guiding and caring for you is false security. They just proved when they sent my slip to request the second initiation that the Spiritual Services Center hasn't read all my reports, much less their living ECK-master reading and remembering them. Recording of my experiences of life does help me with recalling or at least referencing more of it. Moving on to the next peak experiences are easier when one is satisfied with the record and explanation of them. The final workbook activity, lesson 11 of the ECK Dream 1 Discourses, is on the next 2 pages. I will share when I experience something unique or unusual with the hue, blank, and silent hue, while casually looking for the light spiritual exercise. You may record the simple everyday experiences. You may record the simple everyday experiences with it for a few days, if you wish. Did you notice any difference when you looked for light than when you simply chanted hue? I don't always. And I do try to go back once a year or so and share of my spiritual journal. Now, if I have enough subscribers, I'll try to do live streams and have those up as question periods. But yeah, if you like this material, watch the rest of the ECK playlist. If that's all you watch, yeah, go ahead. But remember to go ECK yourself.